Hello and welcome, the Audiophile Roundtable. I'm Steve Westman, best-sounding rock albums. Here's the panel. Welcome, everyone. Patrick, Nathan, Arnaldo, George Borden, and a new face replacing Mazzy this week. You need a hat on, Bill. Is Bill from Bill's Boxes Sound. And Bill, I want to tell the viewers one thing that's really cool. Years and years ago, you did a video. You've been around YouTube land for over a decade, so you've got some skin in this game. I watched a video of yours years ago of you showing how to clean records, which actually that video went viral. Probably to this day it was over 100,000 views. So that's how I got my first introduction to you and your channel. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
So welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here.
So this is rock albums today. So I have banned any talk of Steely Dan. I think we talked about that before it went on. I did not want to talk about that because we talk about that probably too much at times. So anyways, anything but that I'm happy with today. So welcome today, guys. Couple things talking about rock albums. I was looking on the MoFi website and you look at this here. The out of stock, the Van Halen, One Step, out of stock. What do you think of that?
Oh, darn the luck.
Well, I did not expect it to be out of stock. I mean, I think it sold better than I would expect. It probably sold better than MoFi was expecting. I mean, from the reviews that I've read or watched on YouTube, some pretty damn good stuff. I mean, I've heard the SACD is really good as well. But, you can get the Chris Bellman all analog cut for $15-20, right? So, I mean, that's the competition.
Yeah, I was expecting them to move really quick. I mean, I'm not interested in it myself, but I was expecting them to go because it's been so long since they first announced it.
Yep.
So people have been waiting for a long time. So
a lot of people pre-ordered a long time and canceled in that time.
True, because we have had MoFi Gate, but I think by the time they do all of theirs, maybe it might slow down a bit.
And then the next one. Sorry, go ahead.
2030 is when they're supposed to finish, I think, all those.
they're on the Tom Schultz schedule.
Yes.
And I just looked today, some interesting news on we got the Atlantic 75 series, right? I mean, anyone interested in Hootie and the Blowfish, Cracked Rear View? I mean, was a huge record back in the day. And it's kind of almost good timing because have a look here. Look who got arrested yesterday, Darius Rucker.
Is that the one that makes the dolphin cry? Whatever.
He got arrested yesterday for drug possession or something. So there is his mugshot right there. There's Hootie. Hootie got arrested. So and then his album that you can get, which sold
His name's not Hootie.
I said Darius.
No, I know. You ever see the Key and Peele skit that they do?
No.
Yelling Hootie at the concert, and he keeps telling him that his name's not Hootie.
Well,
you guys got to watch that.
Or Cuba Gooding Jr. at the airport. I'm not Hootie.
I think he's a country artist.
Well, if anyone doesn't know him, he's actually a very large country artist in Nashville these days. He's actually doing huge concerts. And again, he got arrested out on a I think it was like an $10,200 bail or some obscure number like that. So he's out, and it is what it is. So now, Bill, first time on the program, I wanted to do a shout out here. Tell us about what we're looking at here at Spudlock. This is spudlock.bandcamp.com, and I have a bigger picture here. What is Spudlock? What are we looking at here? Original recordings made between 88 and 92.
Yes, Spudlock is a band that I put together back in 1988 and through about 1992, and we did a whole bunch of songs. It's kind of geeky, it's kind of silly, but in my opinion, it really rocks. And I've always wanted to put it out, originally on CD, because that's what was selling at the time. But as time went on, I said, you know what? It's been so many years. If I don't put it out on vinyl now, I may never put it out. So I got the money together. I got a good mastering engineer and had it pressed at Got a Groove in Cleveland. And I am extremely pleased with the album. So far, the reviews that I've gotten are very positive, but I just have to warn you, it's geeky stuff. It's nerdy stuff.
I love geeky stuff. And then we can buy.
Where can you get it?
Right there.
You can get it on Bandcamp.
So spudlock.bandcamp.com. How much is it going for, Bill?
$20 plus shipping to wherever you are. It's like $5 within the 48 states. It's a lot more expensive to Canada.
Good.
Of course.
And hey, sorry about that. It's the way that the postal services have made it. And let's see, it comes in a very nice sleeve. It's got lyrics inside. And what can I say? I'm very happy with the way the album came out. And you would not believe it, having listened to it, that it was recorded mostly on cassette tapes.
Sort of like you're like the Bruce Springsteen of the Nebraska album, recorded in a cassette tape. There you go. We should just run the plagin process through it, and make it a real remastering. That's for sure.
Is there a splatter variant?
No, it's black vinyl all the way. Now, if I ever do put out a second album, then all bets are off. Colors, splatters, no picture disc. No.
Okay, guys, before we get going on some rock albums, I'm excited about this. No Steely Dan. I saw this on Facebook. Someone posted this, and so I want to see who answers this first. I know the answers to the 5 of you guys. This is a Jeopardy question, so I want it obviously answered in Jeopardy format. Here we go. I'll read it. You tell me what you think the answer is. Ozzy said his world stood still the first time he heard this Led Zeppelin tune that lends its title to a film by Richard Linklater.
What is Dazed and Confused?
Boom! Dazed and Confused. Great movie, 1993-ish. Matthew McConaughey was in it. Who else? I mean, it's some huge stars. I mean, Ben Affleck. Yeah.
Parker Posey.
Posey. That's right. Mila Jovanovic or whatever her name is. Yeah. Yeah.
And Randall Pink's girlfriend, Joey Adams.
Joey Lauren Adams from Mallrats days and Kevin Smith movies. Absolutely. So yeah.
Excellent soundtrack.
Excellent.
I lived Dazed and Confused. I was in South Texas in that era. That was my era. That's exactly when I went to high school.
You know that school. You know that high school then, probably, Patrick.
I think it was patterned after Austin Westlake.
Yeah. Great movie. I'm gonna have to watch it again. All right, who wants to start? I mean, rock albums. Let's talk about this. What did you guys bring? I'll start with Nathan. What do you got going on, Nathan?
Oh, well, you got to start with the Doors. So we'll go with LA Woman, which is not only their best sounding album, in my opinion, but also my favorite Doors album. And this is the Analog Productions 2 LP, 45 RPM. And I wanted to point out something specific to this album. You know, we always talk about the debate of 33 RPM and 45 RPM. One of the true benefits that this album gets with that is the 2 longest tracks on this album at 7+ minutes are the title track and Riders on the Storm, which end what normally would have ended side 1 and side 2. But on this, you actually get the 4 sides. So those songs are actually spread out over the side, which you get more of the benefit with less distortion and better groove spacing and everything like that. So that's my starter. I think it's if every album of that era sounded that good, we'd really be in for a world of treats, because most stuff does not sound that good that was recorded around that time period.
And that's a Doug Sachs mastered and cut recording through Analog Productions, which is fantastic album. Thank you. All right, George Borden, what do you got?
So I actually chose things off the beaten path. What's best? What's the best sounding? Who knows what that is? It's subjective. So I'm picking some that I think maybe nobody else is going to pick, but I think sound good and for different reasons. So the first one I have is this record by a little known band called AC/DC called For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. I think that this is my favorite sounding AC/DC record and my favorite AC/DC record to listen to. And it comes sort of after the big giant explosion of Back in Black. And how do you follow that up? Difficult to do. But I actually enjoy listening to this record more than the 2 previous records before it, Highway to Hell and Back in Black. This is obviously a radio copy with the timing strip on it. AC/DC. For Those About to Rock, We Salute You.
Would you guys like to see those remastered, maybe through Rhino Hi-Fi or something, with Kevin Gray? That would be a kind of a cool thing.
A lot of those were remastered in Australia.
Yeah,
they put out a box set called I think AC/DC, like just Volume 2. I think was they were done on the maxi cut process too.
I think it'd be a print. I think it'd be a print issue though. Like those Rhino series, I mean, if they're only doing 5,000, I mean, I think the detriment is that, I mean, I think all of us can agree AC/DC is a band that I think we want always available and always in print, right?
Well, up to a flick of a switch, and then after that, nobody really cares. But
Well, I was saying maybe they start doing some box sets of these bands as well. Just throw out the first 5 albums or 8 albums or something. Just get it all done so we have it, and then price it at a really good price point. I don't really care about any glossy picture book or never before seen pictures. I could care less. Just want to listen to the music. So who knows? All right, Arnoldo, what do you got?
you're on mute.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Oh no.
Sorry about that. Someone just mentioned it in the chat that they kind of ruined my pick. Everyone talks about Rumors, but I think this is the album that really changed the way they recorded. Keith Olsen was the engineer, I believe, and recorded at Sound City Studios. The reason being, Lindsey Buckingham was recording there. That's where he recorded the first Buckingham Nicks, and that's where he met Mick Fleetwood. And he was impressed not only with Lindsey Buckingham, but also by the studio and Keith Olsen. And that's where this was recorded. I don't have the original 33, but I do have the double 45 that came out a few years ago by Chris Bellman. So I wanted to show this because no one really talks about this one. And Vinyl Me Please is putting out the 33 in a few weeks. So that'll be interesting to compare because I also have the Vinyl Me Please subscription.
And I assume that's it from the analog tapes as well that Bellman would have cut that from, just like Ryan.
Well, back in 2012, the stickers were a little ambiguous. They weren't as explicit as they are now. I believe the sticker says mastered from the original tapes. Doesn't say cut from the original tapes. The assumption is based on what Chris Bellman told you on your live stream. Pretty much everything that they do that is catalog is typically 90% from tape.
Yep.
So I guess we can assume that, but maybe we'll ask him directly next time you have him on.
I think when Patrick Milligan came on, I asked him about Fleetwood Mac, and if I'm not mistaken, I think there was an actual master tape issue with that.
Maybe he cut it from a copy. That's why it doesn't say original.
It's probably what it was.
Maybe it just says mastered from the.
And I think it was probably from a safety or backup tape for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Patrick, what do you got?
Are we doing this? Are we just showing one at a time? Because I have several. So
because I don't think everyone wants to see your mug for the next 10 minutes straight. So that's why we just sort of.
Well, I don't have 10. Who do you think I am? Jose Marino, Ron, or Mazzy? I mean, I don't. Yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to do this one because these are all great sounding records. Mahogany Rush. I could have picked anything in the Mahogany Rush catalog. It's Mahogany Rush 4. Not sure who produced this, but this is such a well-recorded album, and he's Canadian. Probably most of you might be familiar with Frank Marino, but this is a great, great record. Highly recommended. Sounds phenomenal, and you can get it for probably $2 or $3 at your record store. You should probably get everything, up through frickin' What's Next. Sounds phenomenal. So.
Give us one more.
Okay. REO Speedwagon. You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. Again, I believe this was cut at Sound City. I could be wrong. Mastered by Wally Trowgett, this copy is. Phenomenal album. Gary Richrath, highly underrated guitar player. Great, great guitar tone. Just Les Paul right into a freaking amp. Just balls to the wall. Really, really good. Again, another album you can find for $2 or $3 at your record store. That just sounds phenomenal. Great, great record. Roll with the Changes. Great driving song. Can't live without this record for me.
Arnoldo, getting back to it, I just saw a comment here. So Chris,
yes, it was from a safety copy.
He did say that. Okay, thank you, Babar Khan. That's awesome. So there we go, amazing. So I'm assuming Vinyl Me Please. They're probably taking it from the same tape, right?
Yeah,
and Ryan K. Smith would be mastering that one.
This
Vinyl
one,
Me
yes.
Please. Okay,
Yeah.
Nathan.
World Turning on that one that Arnoldo showed. Knock the foundation off your house. That track alone, the bass on that, the Fleetwood Mac.
Yep.
Bill, what do you got?
It's a great conversion.
Well, one of mine has already been shown. It was on the top of my list. I had this out, and I do have the analog productions version of this, so I'm disqualified on that one. But I do have 4 others.
Sound effects. We don't have sound effects on this show. That's great.
Hey, I produce podcasts. What can I do? But somebody was in the chat room, and they were asking about this band. I was very glad that I pulled this one out. And here's the band, XTC. And the album is English Settlement. And this is the original British 2-record version. This has been re-released on Andy Partridge's label, Ape. And found out listening to an interview with Hugh Padgham that the master for this was done on 30 IPS half-inch tape. And it shows. This is a great album with it wasn't as popular in America. In America, it was shaved down to a 1-record set. But this has always been one of my favorites and probably the best sounding XTC album overall, even though a lot of people like Skylarking a lot more. So XTC,
Nice.
English Settlement.
I thought George would bring an XTC, so I'm surprised.
Nope.
Darn it. All right, so I had Chris Spellman on. What was it, a week ago now, and one of the albums or the catalogs that he was really one of his favorite of all time were the Petty, and so this here is the 2016 or 2017 remaster or reissue, and it's on 180 gram vinyl, obviously. So I'm just reading the liner notes here. Mastered for vinyl from the analog master tapes by Chris Spellman. So there it is, AAA cut, Tom Petty, Full Moon Fever, and this album really started, I guess, the Traveling Wilburys after, if you recall, right? Because a lot of the Roy Orbison was on this record. I think George Harrison was on this record, and of course, a bunch of the Heartbreakers. I mean, this sounds phenomenal. Sounds how I remembered it. Of course, I had the CD back in the day, but highly recommend this. You can still buy it, probably brand new at your record store or online through some of the record, probably Amazon or whatever, and they're $30-40 brand new. AAA. Sounds great. Anyone have it?
I have the original. Have you compared it with the original?
I don't have I have the original CD because I bought the CD back when it came out in '88. So no, I don't have the original.
Yeah,
that's in the box set though, right? It's in the box set that came out.
Yeah. So this is 2016. No, sorry, it says on here. So let me just read it just so I get it. So this is the 2015 remaster by Chris Spellman from the analog tapes.
I think that came in the box set. There's a 2 box set.
AAA from the analog tapes, and it's one of my favorite albums. So high marks in that one. Again, Chris Spellman even said on the show that's one of his favorite albums he's ever cut. So there you go. And Malcolm's saying the best Torpedoes any cut. I think I don't have the Bellman cut of Torpedoes. I have an original Canadian, which sounds really good as well. But yeah, who wants to go next? George. Okay, Nathan, go.
Well, all right. So I hesitated to do this one because it's not like readily available, but it's the super vinyl mobile fidelity release of Jeff Beck's debut album, Truth. I think Jeff Beck is up there with Jimi Hendrix and being one of the most innovative pioneers of the instrument, really turning the guitar into an instrument of textures, more than just as a lead guitar player, rhythm player, but also incorporating the guitar in many other ways. So this sounds amazing, but I think they only did like 1,000 or 2,000 of these on the super vinyl. So that's why I kind of hesitate to promote things that aren't easy to find. But, everybody talks about Hendrix, and I think Jeff Beck is right up there as one of the greatest guitar players, certainly innovative. And usually these guys get credit for their amazing, virtuosity or whatever. But Hendrix was doing things on guitar, with chords and chord shapes, and the song, If 6 Was 9 is a good example of that. Most people don't know why that song is even called that. They think it's a sexual reference, but it's actually because the song uses 6/9 chords. It's actually the name of the chords that are used in that. It's like a jazz chord. So that's kind of ties into the song. So anyway, Jeff Beck's Truth.
That's
It is a
always
great
been
sounding
great
copy, by the
sounding
way.
album.
Yeah,
How many did MoFi press of that one? What's the limit on that? Was it 3,000?
I thought it was. Wait, let me look.
Is that the 45 RPM?
Yep. Now,
It's 5,000 on it, but
and that,
I
but
thought
that's
it was
not.
sold-
But that's not super vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe 1,000 or 2,000.
I have the 45. It sounds great. I don't know why I like that better. The UK mono. They're very different.
I'm assuming it was a very well recorded and mixed album as well, George.
It was.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Is it my turn?
You're next, bud.
All right. This is Jane's Addiction, self-titled first album on Triple X Records. This is a copy it's hard to get a hold of and probably expensive. I'm hoping that there's going to be some sort of reissue of this soon. This was recorded live at the Roxy in Los Angeles and then taken into the recording studio and enhanced. Wasn't ever meant to be a live album. It was just their debut album, but the cheapest way to lay basic tracks is record a show. So they recorded a show, took it into the studio, and then overdubbed all kinds of stuff on top of it. There's some covers on here, Sympathy for the Devil and Rock and Roll, Lou Reed song.
Who produced that, George?
Wow, I don't even know if there really officially is a producer.
Was it actual production?
I think like Terry Date got with them later. I think it's actually just produced by Jane's Addiction, Perry Farrell. But let me do some research and I'll get back to you. I've never even really thought about it, to be honest with you.
I always like that version of Jane Says on that one.
Well, yeah, this has got, and that's the thing is that they went back in, they signed with Warner Brothers after this and then did what is considered their debut record, Nothing Shocking. And they redid Jane's Addiction from this. Jane Says from this, and also a song called Pigs in Zen. Both of the versions on here I find to be definitive and not, it was kind of a letdown on that record, but every Jane's Addiction record's pretty good. So.
Nathan, do you want to answer Malcolm's question? Thanks, Nathan. For Jeff Beck, have you got Guitar Workshop with Zappa's Best Drummer?
Yeah, all of those sound fantastic. I just picked what was, an LP that I actually own that I could comment more on the sound quality, I guess, of. But all of those are great.
And I know we got a big Zappa fan in the house here. Bill, your thoughts?
Oh, you can just go to me next.
Yeah, I know. I was assuming I'd get a Zappa. I'd get a Zappa to you at least.
Yeah, I had to pick a Zappa album, and there's several stellar sounding Zappa albums, but as far as rock albums are concerned, and not going more towards prog or more towards jazz, probably the best sounding of all of them is One Size Fits All.
Nailed it.
Yeah, this is great, and great pick on Jane's Addiction, by the way. I have that album, and yeah, it's fantastic. This one was came out in '75 with the same band as pretty much the same band as most of his '70s output. But this is before Terry Bozzio was the drummer. And they remastered this in 2010 or 2015. And it actually does sound better than the original. The original is very hard to beat. I've got both of them. And if you don't have this already, it's a good reissue.
So, and Chris Bellman
did that.
Yep.
Okay.
And he did most of them, and they did a phenomenal job on those. He's done a great job on the Zappa catalog.
So we can probably guess, and that's a AAA cut that you're holding right there too, Bill.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So. That's amazing.
Because I talked a long time with Joe Traffers, the Vaultmeister for the Zappa catalog, and he told me that there were several anomalies that they found with the master tape that they corrected on this, and I went back and forth between this and the original when I did finally get this, and yeah, they did improve on it, and it's all analog.
Bill, you got a fan here. You've been invited to Scotland, an all expense paid trip by Malcolm. So there you go. He'll even buy you the beers. So take him up on that offer.
Dang!
Wow. I don't get free trips. What's going on here?
I'll bring him a free Spudlock record.
There you go. In exchange for.
Yeah.
I think I need a couple Patrick picks here. Go.
Okay. Well, if George Borden is the cheerleader for XTC, I am the VC cheerleader for UFO. So
I knew it. I knew it.
So UFO Strangers in the Night. This is the last album with Michael Schenker. No, I'm sorry, Obsession is. This is the second to the last album with Michael Schenker, but they're best in my opinion. Every song on here it's a 10 out of 10 record, produced by Ron Nevison. They never got better than this. I mean, their cover of Alone Again or by Love. This is the way I first heard it. I mean, I didn't even know it was a love song. I thought it was a UFO song, but I love this record. It sounds great. Mastered by Doug Sachs at the Mastering Lab. Amazing record. And yes, I am a zealot for UFO. So yes. And are you going to do one more? Okay. So
before you start, To Blandy is just asking, maybe someone can answer this for him. Does anyone know if the recent Zappa reissues are using the Bellman plates from the 2015 cut?
Well, in the example that I just showed, yes.
Okay.
But they cut 45 RPM recently, so that would have been new because I don't think he didn't originally cut it at 45 RPM in 2015.
Correct. The newest re-release of Overnight Sensation, the 2-record 45 RPM, which is amazing, was cut by Bellman, and it is all analog off of the original quarter-inch tape. And they're doing analog whenever possible.
And they're all pressed at Palace, aren't they?
No, not anymore. They used to be pressed at Palace. I believe that the most recent batch that got repressed from the same plates that they did in 2015 are being pressed at Optimal. But I've been told that Universal is not always getting their first choice on pressing plant. And I haven't said this a lot in public, but the limited edition of Overnight Sensation that came out with the splatter vinyl, that was done, I believe, by GZ, or it might have been done by Precision in Canada. But the colored vinyl has a bit of noise on it. So buy it for the limited edition version of it, but if you want the best sound, get the one that you can get in a regular record store.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I know you're a big Zappa fan, Bill, but the originals compared to some of the Bellman recuts, what is your take on those in terms of sound quality? What are you hearing?
In most cases, they are equal or better. One that I really took to task, and this is getting a little bit away from the rock, was like when they did the Waka Jawaka and the Grand Wazoo albums. Bernie Grundman cut those, and they had to use production masters that Zappa had produced himself. That was one generation away from the original master tape, but he had EQ'd it for LP. And I went back and forth on the original and Bernie's recut back and forth. And I could barely tell the difference. It was just less pops and clicks because of the age of the record on the new ones. So there.
There you go.
Cool.
Are we going back to Patrick now? Did I cut?
Let her know.
Oh no. Okay, go.
Yeah,
It's mayhem. It's mayhem.
Kind of like you already showed one Tom Petty album, but
Yeah.
I think this requires a special mention.
Yeah, totally.
Also cut by Chris Bellman. I don't know who cut it originally, but this was all analog. It sounds phenomenal. Yeah, Rick.
It's one of the best sounding rock albums of all time, I think. That
Yes.
record sounds incredibly.
So, and this also was recorded at Sound City.
Yep.
So I wonder if, I don't know, Nirvana also recorded Sound City. They're all great sounding records. I mean, maybe it has to also do with the sonics, the acoustics of the studio, but.
Or Keith Olsen.
And it's that console too. That console.
The Neve, right?
Yes, that Neve console. Grohl still has it. He bought it. And now it's in.
He bought it. Yeah.
It's going to be one of mine too.
Well, I've got, pretty obvious. So I've got, I've been I want Rhino Hi-Fi to do it, but this is my original UK Vertigo pressing of Black Sabbath, self-titled. I have my original Canadian pressing. This pressing uses the same plates as the American pressing as well. And I will say, and I've done basically blind tests on both of these guys, and the Vertigo one just has exactly what you need to hear if you're a big Black Sabbath fan. I love the Vertigo cut. And I can't wait if Rhino does come out with a new cut by Kevin Gray. Look out! I'm going to have some fun doing a comparison between these 3 copies. But again, my go-to, of course, is the Vertigo, and this isn't original.
That Black Sabbath, for bang for your buck, for the cost of that record, for how good it sounds, is astronomical. I mean, that album, I think, took like 8 hours to record. They spent like £500, and it sounds great even to this day.
I will tell you, Tom Port, he has told me at one time that he feels like the Warner one is the better sounding one, and he's done comparisons between the Vertigo and the Warning. That's what he told me. But
no.
I'm gonna say, man, Vertigo all the way. That's for sure. This is it.
Yeah.
Got to pick one up. I don't think they're pretty expensive, right? I mean, I think they're going for a pretty buck these days.
Well, you can get the UKs if you look for the WWAs. They use the old plates and just X out the Vertigo plates, and you can get them for fairly cheap if you do your due diligence.
There you go. All right, who wants to go? Who's ready?
I'm ready.
Hang on.
All right. Neil Young. Everybody knows this is Nowhere. So I picked this for a couple reasons. This is the Chris Bellman reissue cut, but I picked this because the opening track, Cinnamon Girl, if you actually talk to most rock bands, if you ask what like their main influence was or the first riff that they learned from in the 70s, 80s, 90s, many of them will tell you the first thing that they learned on guitar was Cinnamon Girl. So I think that's very interesting. There's been tons of covers of that track as well. So I think this is a super influential album, but also Chris Bellman did an amazing job with this cut.
I almost pulled that record. I almost pulled that one out.
Yeah. Tons of ambiance on that record too. That's one of the main reasons I always dig for it. I like the way that it just kind of fills the room.
There you go. So our Rex V Spinner, that would be the Warner Green label, right, Nathan? I have the Vertigo, or is he talking about my Sabbath here? Probably my Sabbath.
No, Sabbath.
So that's the green label.
Yeah.
And then there's of course the Vertigo. This is Canadian pressing, original. Who's next?
I'll go.
George.
I'd like to open myself up to the possibility of getting flamed now.
Nice.
This is way off the beaten path, but it's a I think a really, really good sounding record that this band got lumped into the wrong crowd in the 80s and later, and I think Patrick will appreciate it.
Tesla.
It's Tesla Psychotic.
Yeah.
This record just kicks total ass all the way through. It's recorded really well. It's, I think, their sort of, their big record, but I don't think it's sold. I don't know if this is their biggest selling record, but all the way through, this is just a great record. And this band has more in common with, Guns N' Roses and Black Crowes type of music than hair metal. They weren't.
Oh yeah.
This is not like Dokken or anything like that. This is like rock and roll music, and this is a good band, and they're good on stage. They still play to this day, and they still rock. So Tesla, Psychotic Supper, great record.
No flame for me, man. I'm all in on that, man.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and just someone was asking, Bellman's cut of Harvest is 100% AAA. I did ask him on the show as well, and I do have that album. I did a shoot it a couple years ago between the Harvest Bellman cut, the Lee Hulko cut, and the Nautilus cut. And I will say Bellman, it really shines through in that cut. And again, stuff, a pressing that you can still get all analog. So I sometimes think Bellman has a lot of cuts that we don't talk about enough, that are AAA and are the ones to own. I mean, going back to the Zappas, going back to the Tom Petty's, you know what I mean? Going back to the Neil Youngs, he's got quite a catalog of some really good stuff.
Yeah. Harvest, I was actually going to pick Harvest, but truthfully, if you're just looking from a sound standpoint, I think that album sounds better than Harvest. No knock on Harvest. I think it's a great album. It just has a more raw sound to it, which was more intentional.
Okay, Bill, what do you got?
Okay. And going back to the Black Sabbath, there's probably several of you that know that there was a Vinyl Me Please cut of Paranoid that was done by Kevin Gray, and that is amazing.
I have
I
that
love
as well.
Yeah.
I have that.
But my next selection is you were talking about what if I could have Rhino Hi-Fi do this one. I would definitely be this one. Devo, one of my favorite bands. This is their second album, produced by Ken Scott, and Ken Scott really brought it to the table sonically. And this is lots of bands have a sophomore jinx. Devo had like more than 2 albums of material already written when they got their Warner Brothers contract. So this album, Duty Now for the Future, I've got the original press of it, and it still sounds great to this day. But man, if they could do a remaster of this
box set, Devo box set.
yeah, well, there was one for Record Store Day, but it was all colored vinyls, and I really didn't want to pay the price for that. But hey, you never know; I may seek that out.
And I will let everyone know that was one of the ideas I gave Patrick Milligan for Rhino Hi-Fi. So what you're holding right now, I'm hoping that they do. Yes, he's well aware of that one.
Okay.
Not saying it's going to happen because they don't tell me anything, but I did give him a list. Devo was on my list. I also said exactly what George said as well. Why don't you do a Devo box set? Again, they listen to our show, right? They're obviously watching and see the comments. So definitely Devo is on his radar as one of the ones that Rhino Hi-Fi will hopefully be cutting. I mean, again, it's all about negotiating, right? I don't know how that works.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Who do we have? Arnaldo now? I think it is. Yeah.
So I pulled this one out from the 80s.
Woo! Never heard of that one.
Oh yeah.
This was recorded in Montserrat, and Hugh Padgham, right, was the engineer.
Yep. That's right.
Some people think he had that 80s sound all over all the records that he did at the time. I don't think this has that 80s sound. It's like, and there's like different types of songs on here that I think it shines in all of them and all the different genres. And then this is what they used to call back then audiophile quality vinyl. You know, that purple.
Take out the vinyl. The translucent.
600.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could see it here. I don't know if you can see it. I need a
just
light.
A bunch of fingerprints.
I'll get mine out.
You can at the
At
top.
your house, it'll shine through.
Hold on.
KC 600.
Yep.
All right. You could see the light
Oh,
through
you can
it.
see it.
Hang on. Sorry.
You could see my flashlight through it. You see it?
Yeah.
I'm moving it.
There you go.
Scratches.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, that was a huge selling album back in '83, right? I mean, that's a multi.
I think it was 83. Yeah, but it's pretty cool that back then they were thinking about audiophile quality vinyl.
Now I think Ludwig mastered that one.
I think so. Let's see.
You did.
Yeah, definitely.
Master Disc RL.
Yeah, Master Disc RL. You're right.
Well, we find that more and more, right? It's Ludwig from the '80s, and I was talking to Michael Fremer about this too. It's like Doug Sachs, Ludwig come up a lot more. I mean, before they even put the, he didn't put RL or DS in the dead wax. You're finding that more.
George Marino never etched his initials anywhere.
Did he not do it for any of the reissues of the Hendrix stuff that he did? No. Nothing. Huh. That's surprising.
It just wasn't a practice back then.
Well, the thing is, yes and no. I mean, you look at Ludwig; he did it back in what was it, the Led Zeppelin 2 album? So I mean, it was happening.
And Houses of the Holy.
Yep. So it was happening. But like I said, I did see when Chad interviewed Bernie even said that he started doing the dead wax initials in the dead wax when he worked with Hobson at Classic Records. That's when he really started to do it. So I'm not sure if Bernie did BG before that. Not that it matters. This is all irrelevant crap, but it's interesting. That's for sure. I guess I'm next, huh? You want me to do one here?
You gonna skip me or what, man?
Oh shoot! I won't skip you, Patrick.
Go ahead and go.
No. But I did notice that someone had asked you a question, or someone was asking a question here. Sorry.
No, but somebody brought up the Nautilus Sgt. Pepper. I don't think Nautilus did Pepper. Nimbus did Pepper.
It's Nimbus, Nautilus. and I make that mistake as well. It's a Nimbus one, which is really sought after. But I like the Audio 5. I think the Audio 5 one probably sounds better than the Nimbus cut. Go ahead, Patrick.
I wish I could find out. So for me, my next pick on the Sabbath train is going to be Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. This was and still is my favorite Black Sabbath album. The production on this, they finally got it right. Sounds phenomenal. Not a bad song on here. My parents hated this record. Absolutely couldn't stand it. But but I loved it. I loved every song on here, and I would listen to it with my headphones on religiously, probably every day for a year. Love this record, and it sounds really good. And the U.S. pressing is better than the U.K., believe it or not. So U.S. pressing is the way to go, in my opinion.
Nice.
Thank you, Patrick. All right, I got one here. Hold on. Here we go. So here it is. I grew up listening to Stephen Wolf. This is the Gold, the Greatest Hits album, done by Analog Productions, QRP Pressing, mastered and cut from the original analog tapes from Kevin Gray, 33 RPM.
That sounds great, by the way.
This album is, I mean, every single song, and I say this a lot. This is it's a great deal. I think it's probably pretty cheap on Discogs as well. It's not like
I had such low expectations for that record and music on it. I remember the first time I put it on, I went, "Wow, this is really freaking good."
And some of the best guitar tones ever. And some of the best guitar tones ever.
Yeah, and I know that Kevin didn't really, didn't really take a lot off the master tape when he cut it, because I did ask them that, because I was really impressed with the way it sounded. So if you don't have this one, guys, this is a great album to have.
That will knock your socks off, man. I was so surprised when I played that. I was just like, wow, this is good.
Yeah.
Too bad it's not their greatest hits. It's only their great hits, not their greatest.
That's so true.
Another one of that vein is the Best of James Gang that Analog Productions did. That also is super freaking good. Sounds phenomenal. So.
Who's ready to go? Ready to go?
I got one.
Okay, George, go.
Half Pearly Jam, half Soundgarden, Temple of the Dog. If you're not familiar, Chris Cornell, in response to Andrew Wood, right, died, and wrote some songs about him, and got together with Matt Cameron's in here, and then it's the two guitar players and the bass player from Pearl Jam. So this is a recent repressing. I think this is a great record all the way through. It's a fun listen, and lots of space, lots of good thick guitar tones, lots of good musicianship. Temple of the Dog.
It's been bootlegged a lot too, so be careful.
Bill, someone was asking, Darren Crawford was asking, behind you, what is it a mixing board behind you? What do you have behind you? Someone had asked you that.
Yes, that's a Mackie 16 channel board. And
VLZ3.
Let me see that. I got to see this, sir.
Yeah, right there.
And you got your
Pro.
The Mackie 1642 VLZ.
And you got your humming guru there too. There you go. You've upgraded since the last video 10, 15 years ago.
That's why I got to make a 2024 video for vinyl cleaning.
Do you ever go back to those old videos to watch them and go, "Oh my God"?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Especially I go back to when I say, "Man, I look terrible. I sound terrible. I talk terrible." You'll learn by doing this stuff. I mean, you know just as much as anybody else does.
Oh yeah.
But I got another record here that I'd like to show. So since The Doors was already picked and the Tom Petty Wildflowers was already picked, I'm going to my backups on here, and I'm picking 9 Inch Nails Hesitation Marks. This came out in 2013. 2-record set, and this is one of the best sounding electronic rock albums I've ever heard. And when you bought this, if you bought it online, you could get 2 different downloads, one that was compressed and one that was an audiophile version that was in full 24-bit, which was nice. But the album sounds better than all of those versions, and got some great tunes on here. Copy of a All Time Low, Running, love that one. But yep, I do enjoy me some 9 Inch Nails, and aside from the Fragile, and also what was that other one? The Downward Spiral. This is probably this is the best sounding 9 Inch Nails album in my estimation. So there you go.
Cool.
Thank you. Who's next?
I guess it'll be me. This is my last one. Like Clockwork, Queens of the Stone Age. It came out originally on double 45. Maybe that's what makes it sound so grand. I love this album. I love the music, and it just shines on this. The recording studio, I'm not familiar with it. It's called Pink Duck. Are any of you familiar with it? It's in Burbank.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. That's all I got.
It might just be code for someone's house or like a private studio.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe it's one of their houses. Yeah, you're right. But
Cool. I have a non-recommendation, but then it turns into a recommendation.
Ooh, I like those.
So Santana 3, the Mobile Fidelity version, do not buy this at all. This is
Why is
awful.
that? Why is that, Nathan?
It just sounds flat, lifeless, dull, boring, annoying. It has none of the sonics that it should. So instead of getting that, what you should either opt for would be either the Mobile Fidelity SACD, which sounds significantly better, or if you want something that's even better than this, the Japanese 7-inch SACD, which has both the quad and stereo mixes on it. And I think this is the best sounding Santana album out of any of them. And it is also my favorite Santana album out of all of them. Even though all the earlier ones sound fantastic and love those as well, I think Santana 3 is criminally underrated and is every bit as good as Abraxas, if not better.
Now, I think on the ones you held, the SACD and the vinyl version, one has original master recording, one has...
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's interesting
so,
too. So let's put it back up again.
The silver
That means
label.
it wasn't from the master tape. So
that one, so the vinyl wasn't from the masters, but the SACD was from the masters.
Or even just one song couldn't be verified. They didn't
Right.
have the provenance on something.
Don't go to sleep on the UK issues, the original UKs on those early Santana albums up through what's the fourth album, Caravant, whatever the hell it is. But yeah, the original CBS UK sound really good.
Yeah. I mean, the textures in those albums are just so amazing, and like the bleed through from one track to the other. I mean, it's like a whole experience. So,
well, I have an album that was done by Glenn Johns and Andy Johns. This is Rock On by Humble Pie. This is, I think, Peter Frampton's last album with the boys. Also has P.P. Arnold singing backup on here with Bobby Keys on sax and Alexis Corner on vocals, the blues legend. This was, like I said, recorded by Glenn Johns and Andy Johns. Great sounding record. This is the UK version. The US version has a slightly different looking cover than this, but great record. And also the self-titled, which is their third album, is also a great sounding record, and just a great record in general.
Hear, hear.
So we haven't mentioned it yet. How about it? This is the issue that came out. I think this is the 2020. I also have the Bernie Grunman cut as well. Do you guys have either or?
Yes.
I have the Bernie Grunman and the original Brazilian version, which is actually very good. It's excellent.
So the Grunman that came out is from the analog tapes as well, and that was I don't know when that was reissued, how many years ago that was, but I know
the ORG.
I have that one. I just pulled the wrong one. This is the 2020. Now, for the life of me, I can't remember who cut this one and if it was what the source was, if it was analog as well. If anyone can remember, this is the Geffen version. It's the gatefold. 2021. This came out.
They've reused the plates though on that ORG cut a lot of time. There's a lot of those they just shoved those plates there, so you have to go look.
Yeah, my other version, I think is it the Universal Back to Black or whatever they have. They know that I think those are the BGs and the Dead Wax as well, which are the same plates they used from years ago from the analog tapes, if I'm not mistaken. Well, Leland's even saying this here. 2009. The 2013 used the same plates he's saying here. So there you go.
The original pressing, the US pressing is still my favorite of this, but the ORG is right there. I mean, it's very close.
There you go. 2021, the one that I was holding up here. I pulled the wrong one. I thought this was my Grunman cut. This is the digital cut, and I have the Grunman one as well in my listening room. But yeah. I love it. I mean, never mind. I had the CD when it first came out. I had the cassette when it came out as well. I never had it on vinyl, of course, right? But here I go. Got it. So yeah. What else we got?
I have this one. No, speaking of Black Sabbath, I've had to get Ronnie James Dio in the conversation. This is Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell, 1980. Black Sabbath, Back from the Dead on this. Again, this is a great sounding record. The textures and the atmosphere on this is phenomenal. And it's just a great record all the way around. Not a bad song on here, except, maybe Walk Away. But other than that, 9 out of 10 record. But love this record, and it sounds phenomenal.
How about a tribute to Mazzy? If Mazzy was here, I think he'd pick an Intervention Records title like Joe Jackson's Night and Day. This is a killer reissue from Intervention.
Intervention always does good stuff. Their whole Joe Jackson series is very good.
Yeah, I could have picked any one of them, but I think Night and Day is just probably my favorite album out of the bunch.
And no one's brought up Unplugged Nirvana. I have that on CD as well. It's one of my.
I almost pulled the Alice in Chains Unplugged because I thought that was a really, really good sounding record. It's just night and just great sounding album. I should have pulled that. And the Rage Against the Machine's first album is another one that I couldn't find my copy of, but the original one done by Robert Ludwig is a great sounding hard rock metal album. So
I don't know if I have the original CD, but the Neil Young Unplugged, MTV Unplugged is one of my favorite Unplugged albums out there. I like it better than the Eric Clapton Unplugged. I'm not sure if you
What about Alice in Chains?
Another good one as well. I don't own that one though.
Yeah.
Well,
But
Darren, the theme about this stream is talking about, good sounding records. That was the thing. It wasn't about the greatest music. It's about the best sounding records. But, that's kind of the theme today.
Yeah.
Who else has more?
No, I got one more left since I'm going into my back.
Got a whole closet if you want.
Because you showed Queens of the Stone Age like clockwork. That's a great album. But this one I think is just as good, if not better, not just sonically, but also in performance-wise. This is the album that turned me on to Queens of the Stone Age, and the whole thing with Caius and all of the desert rock stuff. This is unbelievable. I actually bought 2 copies of this. I got one that had a black cover on it, and that ended up being a gray market one. And then when they re-released it again on Interscope, I picked this up, and much better pressing on this one. So Songs for the Deaf, Queens of the Stone Age. If you don't have it, you got to get it. So there.
Wow.
I got one more.
He grew up on polka, right?
Just because he's not represented so far today.
I was going to pull that one out.
In some places, this record gets maybe a little too dense. But then there's the extended cuts like 1983 and Voodoo Child, the long extended blues version of it. And this is when he's finally allowed to sort of take the reins and sort of go farther into what he wants to accomplish, as opposed to just rocking for 2.5, 3 minutes on the first 2 records, which are both great. But this is a great record. Electric Ladyland by Jimi Hendrix. Lots of cool phasing techniques, way ahead of its time, and in a lot of the stuff that they were trying to accomplish. Maybe they didn't always hit it. This is the
George Marino cut.
The Chad version, right?
There's a Marino cut then.
Yeah. So again, this sounds great. I love the sound of this one. I have a bunch of different copies, OGs and all kinds of stuff, and this is the one I listen to the most when I'm going to put this record on.
So George, I'm glad you picked that record, because I've always wondered. I read this all the time that the phasing. You brought up the phasing as well. There was talk about how the phasing was changed between the first U.S. cut and I think the two color reprise label and then the solid reprise label. They went in and they did some phase changes on that. Is that true? Did you know that?
So what happened was that they had purposefully incorporated, some stereo phasing techniques. And what it does is this is kind of maybe overtly technical, but on a console, you have a phase meter, and when it stays to the right, you're good to go. Everybody's good. When it goes over to the left, it means you have anti-phase between the channels, meaning there's cancellation happening. this does help in some ways to create depth, width, dimension, but when overdone, it can also lead to bad vibes. So what was happening is that the engineers, they didn't master in-house. They sent it to a place, whoever was mastering it the first time, the technician went, oh, there's phase issues here. Let's correct them. Right. So they took away a bunch of sort of the dimension and sort of collapsed the recording. And when Hendrix and Kramer heard that, they were up in arms about it because they thought they were doing them a favor. They thought it was a mistake, but it was actually purposeful. So they made the attempt to correct it. So that's what happened.
I always wondered what the real story was behind that. So yeah.
And one thing about Hendrix, he hated all of his album covers. He thought they were the worst. I mean, every single one. I don't think he actually liked any of the covers that ever came out. I mean, I think someone had mentioned the naked lady, the nudity cover, or whatever it was, Too Blanded. He hated that stuff. He absolutely hated it.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny because there's some sketches where he literally drew out himself on a piece of paper. Here's what the cover should be: us sitting with the kids in the park. This would be the front cover. Here's how the pictures are going to be, like, yeah, just like that. Laid it all out and said, this is it. And they just ignored it, you know? Yeah.
So that would have been a Hendrix approved cover there more than than the other one.
You can see him literally sending a piece of paper that he drew the cover and specified which pictures to use and where, and said, this is the way the cover should be. And they just went,
well, that's
sure.
That's the thing back in the 60s. I mean, the Beatles led the way of actually controlling their covers and their artwork. I mean, before that, the artists didn't have a lot of control over that, did they? Back then, it was pretty much the record label. This is what we want. This is what it's going to be. And then the Beatles came in and said, no, this is what we're having. I mean, we're pretty much probably starting with Revolver, right? When sort of things changed, 65 with the way the bands had control of some of their artistic, being artistic on the actual cover. So I think 65 Revolver really led the way. Even Rubber Soul, maybe, if I'm not mistaken, too, right?
I'll smell the glove. How much black is it?
I'm surprised no one brought up this one, Lou Reed's Transformer, the Speaker's Corner reissue.
Such a good sound.
It was a hard rock metal day, so I got the wrong memo. So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get the memo about hard rock. I just got the memo about rock in general.
Okay, I've got one here. No one's picked any of these today, so I mean, I'm Captain Obvious, but I mean, this is my Robert Ludwig RLSS Zeppelin 2. Unbelievable. I do have the MoFi here as well. I've done comparisons, and MoFi's got the smiley EQ, but again, if you want that deep bass and the guitars and the overall just that big sound stage, you're going to get it from the Robert Ludwig cut. Incredible, which we all know is the go-to one to have. But yeah, but even the MoFi one will surprise you. It's not bad.
Well, and it's said many times before, the Pyros is a good second choice if you can't get the Ludwig.
It sounds great. So someone mentioned Blue Oyster Cult, like their first 4 albums sound phenomenal. Those are some great sounding records that you can get for cheap that have great music. Love the music on Darren, you hear me? The music's phenomenal, but they're also great sounding records. So really good.
Steve, I had pulled 2 other ones, but I didn't want to show them because I figured someone else was going to show them.
Well, then you're showing them.
Yeah, they're not, I guess. But I think these deserve special mention.
We were supposed to talk about Dire Straits.
Uh-oh. Hold on. No. I had banned talking about Steely Dan today. I didn't actually ban Dire Straits, so did I?
Okay.
I heard Dire Straits.
Did I really?
I heard Dire Straits in the email thread. Yeah.
Oh, you did? I didn't read that. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
Penalty box. You have to go in the Yoko Ono box and listen to Yoko yell for a few.
There you go. So if you know hockey, that's a 2-minute penalty for embellishment. So there you go.
Here,
you're in the box.
I picked this up the other day.
Hang on.
Is that a good sounding record?
Oh, I love it. I think it's
a great record. I love the record.
I love it. Well, but that's the thing too. It's like sometimes, when the audiophile sound quality isn't there, it's like to get back to Darren's point, sometimes the music's just so good. It sounds good coming out, the speakers, the way that they did it, regardless of whether it was high fidelity or not. But this
raw
record,
that whole thing is.
Yeah, this is a really good rock record.
What's the original price on that? Does it have it still?
Well, it was actually it was even sold used after being new for $5.99. So this is
bargain.
This is an original Mercury,
Skyline Mercury.
Yeah.
What?
I think Gilbert Kahn might have mastered that.
Okay.
What made you pick those two Dire Straits? I'm curious because I think all of them sound pretty darn good. Was there a specific reason why you went with those two?
Well, I think this is the better sounding one of all of them. But the songs on this, I love. I mean, Tunnel of Love, Romeo and Juliet. And it has a little bit of that Jimmy Iovine sound that you'll hear also on some of the Tom Petty records that he produced. That drum sound. I guess it was, what's his name? Shelly
Yakis.
Shelly Yakis, the engineer. I think that was his trademark. But I think this is the cleanest sounding one. It's just really, the way a rock record should sound.
What was the original master engineer for those? It begins with B.H. Hotto. What the hell was his name? Brian Bill Hotto. I can't remember his name. But it's like, but he did a really good job.
And I think those also benefit from the 45 RPM for the same reason that I mentioned the Doors, which is you have those longer tracks that get a little bit more breathing room on those four sides.
It doesn't say who originally mastered it.
I still go to my Robert Ludwig Love Over Gold if I'm listening to Love Over Gold.
But you know what? The Love Over Gold sounds a little tinny. I don't think it was as well recorded as the others.
I just got a copy of that just yesterday in the mail too. Original price $549.
Yeah, that's a great sounding record, like Love Over Gold.
I have another one here. Now, this is another one. I know, George, you had this one up the other day. This is Dio's Holy Driver. This is another one that I've recommend that Rhino do a Rhino Hi-Fi release of.
Sound City again.
And I'm really hoping they do, because this is my original, what is this, 83 pressing, Warner Brothers. Incredible. I love, this. What's the first track? Stand Up and Shout. And then after that, it's, God, what is it now? It's Holy Driver after that. Great track. The two tracks going into this record, amazing. I know George made a comment before. This is probably one of the best metal albums out there. I mean, overall in terms of production and sound, and I can't disagree. And I'm hoping that Rhino does a hi-fi version, with Kevin Gray. I think that's
if they do that, it's going to fly off the shelves.
Yeah. I have recommended it to Patrick Milligan. We've been in chats about this one, so hopefully that happens.
I mean, they did that box set. And they did the remix pretty recently. So
yeah,
if they wanted to go, they should do Last in Line or something. That hasn't been redone at all.
But that record though, it's a perfect record all the way through. There's
every single song is amazing. It's hard rock / metal, right? I mean, that's probably what it is. I mean, if you guys haven't, don't know much about Dio, I mean, he's passed away how many years ago now? A number of years ago now.
10 years ago.
Yeah. Pretty
but
sad.
if you like Rainbow Rising era, like Ronnie James Dio, and you like Black Sabbath, Ronnie James Dio, this is Ronnie James Dio.
So good.
Now, I was gonna pull Born Again by Black Sabbath, but I mean, it just didn't quite make the good sounding album, thing. So, yeah.
Well, I also have, I know, Arnaldo, you had your Master of Reality, the new one from Final Me Please, that was cut from the analog tapes from Ryan K. Smith. I also have a Master of Reality that was cut from the analog tapes from Ron McMaster as well, which sounds fantastic. Another one, which is like, I think you can get for $40-$50, which, if you read some of the reviews, has another really good sounding Master of Reality. I know Patrick probably has his own picks for Master of Reality. Which one's your favorite sounding Master of Reality cut?
UK Vertigo Swirl.
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't heard. It's just a kind of a wonky recording anyway. I mean, it's kind of a funky sounding record. It's not as funky as like Volume 4, but I mean, I'd really like somebody to get Volume 4 right. I don't think I've ever heard a version of Volume 4 that sounds just really knocked my socks off ever. And that's really one of my favorite Sabbath albums, and it just doesn't sound right to me.
Steve, you talked about price, right? And I think the best bargain out there in terms of like the best Sonics versus whatever else is on the market. I know we weren't supposed to do progressive rock, but the Kevin Gray cut of this, Yes Is Fragile. I think this is way better than the MoFi One Step. I mean, they're close, but I think this actually gets the bass right. And I think this usually is like $25. So
and it's available right now on, like, say, I think the Acoustic Sounds website for $25, right?
It's crazy to me because a lot of these reissues are north of 40, 50, 60, whatever. And to get, something of that quality for a landmark album that I think, sounds killer,
So did Kevin recut that? Because there was the acoustic, I think, Hoffman Gray that came out quite a while ago. Is that an acoustic, or is that Kevin Gray by himself cutting that one? I think there was an earlier one that him and Steve Hoffman cut.
No, I think that was just him, and I think that was 2011.
Yeah. So
But
yeah.
but Kevin's recutting it for the Atlantic 75, isn't he? The Yes ones. I think
I'm
so.
looking forward to the Yes album recut on the Atlantic 75. That's probably the thing I'm looking forward to the most on that whole series is freaking the Yes album cut correctly.
Yeah, that's very, very tempting on the Yes album. I agree.
Yeah.
But the 45 RPM is just the flow.
They're gonna have to cut something. Starship Trooper.
John Loper, I like the Ludwig cut of Avalon. I actually do think the Miles Scholl cut of Avalon sounds fantastic as well. But I think, for what, $10 you can pick these, still up in your local record store. You're getting a great sounding album, Avalon Roxy Music. There it is. There, love it. And on the cover there, I guess, there we go. That's a cool cover, isn't it? And that was his wife, and she just passed away last year as well, unfortunately.
Well, speaking of passing away, we need to say goodbye to Apollo Creed, Carl Weathers.
Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Chubbs.
No.
Well,
Another one, huh?
well.
Avalon UK pressing, tops for Andrew. And Avalon does sound great. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of bad sounding Avalon albums out there.
I do hear some compression in the US Avalon. If I can ever find a UK one, I want to compare them.
Yeah.
UK one's a little bit better, in my opinion.
Apollo Creed, Carl Weathers, rest in peace. He was also on Star Wars, wasn't he?
No,
Wayne Kramer died too.
That was Billy D. Williams.
What?
Oh, Billy. No, but wasn't he not on the newer Star Wars? Oh wow.
I don't think so. Well, maybe.
Shit.
Oh, Wayne Kramer, huh?
Wayne Kramer. Wow.
No.
Does anyone happen to have the Brian Ferry greatest hits LP? I think it's like a 2 LP set.
Yeah, I have it.
What are your thoughts on the sound quality on that?
It's okay. It's not bad.
Let's have a look.
That's not a sonic masterpiece, but it's a great record.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. There's Wayne right there.
Teenage Lust, what a great song.
Look at the hair though on Rob there. Look at the hair on that. That's amazing. What year was that?
George, you're talking about the Street Life greatest
1970.
Hits, right?
Bill, are you taking lessons from Jose Moreno Ran? Because you're pulling out records as we mentioned them. It seems like you have them all at your fingertips.
I'm in my room. What can I say? And it's a small room.
It's a skill that very few have mastered. There's a few of you guys that can just pull anything. John Bip Bop Boom is he's just like.
Well,
boom,
I think that's a Mazzy thing. Everyone learned that from Mazzy.
He has the Stretch Armstrong arms.
No, Mazzy just pulls 100 records and just shows them.
He has them sitting there. Says, okay, hey, Carl Weathers was on Mandalorian. I was correct on Star Wars.
Mandalorian. Okay.
Yeah. Darren, Steve, Patrick, why does everyone diss Supertramp? I think Supertramp's great, but
I have a lot of Supertramp albums.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah. I don't diss them.
I just know when to show them and when not to show them.
This isn't a Supertramp show. We can do a full Supertramp show if you want, but I mean, I show Supertramp. George and I did a show. I showed my it was my Canadian MoFi Supertramp, even in the quietest moments.
I mean, Crime of the Century is a great record, phenomenal record. I mean,
I love this Bill's Magic Room. That I don't know. I can really use my imagination there. Bill's Magic Room, but yeah, Crisis What Crisis is a great record.
Yep.
Ken Scott recorded this one. That's true. Yeah, absolutely. But we're talking Supertramp. So, guys, it's we went overtime as well. This is lots of fun. Really happy that you could come on. Have a wonderful weekend. And is anyone going to spin vinyl this weekend, or do we actually don't have time for that? That's what scares me. We talk about records, and I look at my life, and sometimes I don't have a lot of time to spin records. It's tough. George is.
I am.
I did a stream last week where I did nothing but spin records.
Yeah,
man.
I'm going to listen to this as soon as we get off.
Hang on, I got to see it.
Weasels rip my flesh.
Riz.
I just can't get into some of that era of Zappa. I need to revisit it, but some of that stuff is hit or miss with me. I just can't. It just doesn't resonate sometimes. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, these calls prompt me to dig into stuff that I haven't for a while.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to listen to a lot of stuff that I haven't listened to in a long time, just because the stuff everybody's pulled out here. Lots of great sounding records.
That's a lot of fun.
Well, these shows are fun because now anyone that's watching who doesn't have these, like, oh crap, I gotta go. You know, they're going on Discogs right after this, going, oh crap, let's start looking at some of these and buying them. So we're
We
costing
need to get a
people money, that's for
percentage of
sure.
that cut. We need to get
Well,
a percent of the cut.
Well, I'm hoping to have the boys from Discogs on next week, so maybe we can come up with a some sort of commission structure for us YouTubers on the vinyl community when we promote Discogs or whatever. That would be kind of fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So go out and get a job at a record store.
There you go. All right, gentlemen, we'll have a good weekend. It's been awesome.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Spin some records. I will spin some records. Some, anyways. See you later.